Morning, everyone.
Morning, Darren.
Thanks for coming.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Could you start by, well, shall we start by explaining who we are and what we do? I'll kick off. So, Darren McMahon, and I'm the Marketing and Training Director for Viessmann, UK.
I'm Glen from HEATSPEC, based in Leicestershire, and commercial and domestic installer.
Lewis, Director of DCR, we're mechanical and electrical engineers.
Andy Brown, Ace and Gas Heating Services LLP, again domestic and light commercial.
And Nick Baker, Operations Director at Alexandra Heating Services.
So Nick, you are newer to the industry
Absolutely.
Than these guys, and I know a lot of these guys a lot longer than I've known you.
Yeah.
But the business you've dropped into is a business that fits predominantly Vitodens 200.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was said to you the first time you joined the business?
So I come from a variety of backgrounds, and so I've come into this absolutely virginal. And the managing director, Alan, chose Viessmann as a product to support years ago, and he did it purely on an engineering basis. He's an engineer first and last, and he just liked the way the product was built. He thinks it's, and I would absolutely agree from what I've seen, it is a superior built product. I know that sounds very salesy, but it is. You only have to look at the heat exchanger and the out-of-the-box warranty that you get to know that it's built with engineers in mind. And the 200 is such a clear-cut winner in that front. It's just built really well. So the servicing is easier, and there's a myriad of features which you can pick and choose and explain to the customer depending on their requirements. And it's often a game changer. It's just easier to sell. It's making our lives easier by having a host of features which you can call on. 200
really, it's all about future-proofing, because you put that in, you can add to it, you can extend to it, it future-proofs into new technologies.
Yeah.
So very excited about the opportunities.
I've done the 200 for many years, and we've seen it progress and progress. It was always the Rolls Royce of a product, even from the early days, and it's just progressed.
The brilliant advantage of the 200, we can zone it. So we put low loss header in, we put a couple of mixing valves, and then we've said to the two zones, especially if they say, look, we live down here all day, but we go to bed at night, we put it on two completely separate zones. They can have their own slopes, their own operation, and it gives you total control. You can really zone in on the customer's needs or wants in that direction, and that's exactly what we've done a few times with perfect results.
I think the other thing as well with the 200, whereas you do talk about weather comp and we say you need to leave it on and you don't turn it off, sometimes that can put people off because they go, look, I still want to control my house. I think the beauty is with the 200 and it controls, you've got your weather comp, then you've got your setback temperatures. So you still can drive that great amount of efficiency, but people can still have, if they want to time it. You've still got that option, whereas some controls will take that away from the 200. It's literally got everything there from the end user. Yeah. So I think that's a really important thing to say to a lot of people, because it can initially put them off.
And what about the touch screen? Because we moved away from dials that we used to have, and how's the touch screen gone down, both with yourselves and with the end user?
Oh, it's been really good for us. We've noticed, I think, in this digital era with phones, iPads and things, people are just used to that intuitive use. It's just easy to use. You don't really have to instruct people on how to use it because it's all there in wording, rather than old timers and controllers with slides or little buttons to press. It was really confusing, especially for the elderly. And then you think, well, the elderly, how do they use technology? But it's so simple. Kids can use it.
Yeah, I think from the engineer's point of view, you get the feedback from our engineers from commissioning, and they're saying it's so easy to go into it. You can't go wrong. It moves you along with it.
I mean, the one thing I found with the 200 touch is once you've got it set up, 50% of the customers don't even go near it. Once it's running, they say, I don't need to see it. Yeah. It's running, it's working, it makes hot water, it does weather comp, and they don't even go. You go there and they haven't touched it.
What about remote control, smart controls for end users?
Module that we're using at the moment is the VisConnect 100, which goes into the Vicare app for the end user, and customers like that. Kind of connectivity to the boiler when they're outside the home, so if they get back off holiday, they can, whilst at the airport, they can bump the temperature of the house up before they get back. They can turn it off while they're away. So yeah, it gives them kind of bigger use really, how they can use it. And also it flashes up a fault if they are away. Yeah. So they can talk to us to get into the property while they're away and sort it out before they're even back.
I think the ViCares actually and the app system for the 200 is great. Yeah. Because we get asked so many times, third party, we want app controls. Well, obviously when you're in the market for a new boiler, yes, it's great to have that app control, but at the end of the day, it is just a glorified room thermostat. Whereas the 200, you've then suddenly got this technology that controls your boiler fully and gives you that up-to-date information.
And the latest update, it's showing your gas and electricity consumption from the boiler.
Okay.
Which is great to know that you've just spent all this money on a new product. Yeah. What's it actually doing? What's it using? What's it saving me? And it's there.
So it's like having a smart meter on your boiler.
Absolutely, yeah.
So who uses the remote monitoring capability?
Well, I know that we do. I wouldn't say we use it all the time, but it depends on the customer. But we find it useful. You can check what's going on. You don't have to get, if the customer's on the phone, he's got a bit of an issue, you don't have to get him to read out fault codes. You can monitor it remotely, and it saves potentially a wasted journey. Or at least when you get there, you know what you're going to go and expect to see. So yeah, it's just a really useful feature that can potentially save you a lot of time.
Yeah. And others?
Yeah, we use it.
Yeah, it's a great feature. Yeah, we use it. It's good, and it works well, and it does help.
And you do multi-technology installs as well, don't you? So you'll have a boiler connected to solar thermal or heat pump.
So that's where the 200 really comes into play with a lot of our solar thermals, because obviously you get solar thermal suppression. So when you've got solar yields outside and you connect it to the Vitasol unit, the actual solar thermal will say, look boiler, I don't want you. Solar thermal's quite happy. And that is really when the technology comes into play. And as of yet, I don't know of another manufacturer that can do that so well. So the 200 with the solar thermal.
And with the display that the customer can see their actual solar yield in a figure is unreal, because the solar thermal of previous, no one could actually find out how much they're getting from the sun.
No.
But the Viessmann, I think, is the only product I know of that tells you how many kilowatt hours you have harvested, which is great.
Displayed at the boiler
as
well.
At the boiler, it's really good.
And what we do with it is we actually cascade it, because we've got this great opportunity of having this perfect appliance with a great modulation ratio, and we can cascade, and we've done this in quite a few commercial properties. And looking back on the energy consumption, what we've achieved, what we've taken out, and then to compared it against just one larger boiler is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
And I know that some boilers are cascaded domestically too, but that generally tends to be a financially driven decision-making process rather than sticking a larger boiler, which might be commercial and comes at a different price.
If you've got a larger domestic property, then obviously it makes sense. Especially with the 200 modulation, like Lewis has explained, you can really benefit from having a couple of boilers for contingency and modulation. Yeah, it's great resource to have.
Yes, I've done quite a lot of putting 2 or 3 200s in domestic properties. Works brilliantly. Said the modulation rate is superb. The warranty side is much better domestically than commercial. You get the benefits of the commercial controls, which is normally superior to domestic controls, with all the benefits of the smaller boiler operating the house. It's a win-win scenario.
Yeah. And what are some of the servicing benefits of the Vitodens 200 family?
The ease of servicing. We rarely have to change many remedial parts because it's low burn temperature, electrodes now and again, the odd burner pad, but other than that, there's very few servicing things to be doing it, so it's keeping the service cost down. But it is so easy to do.
I think the other important thing on the 200, which a lot of installers again don't realise, is obviously if you have got to frame it out and you don't want to strut it out, and you've got to keep that cost to a minimum, you can put a ply back on it because it's a cool back boiler. So where a lot of installers get incurred costs because they've got to obviously put fire resistant material at the back, you haven't got to do that on the 200.
One of the big advantages with the 222 is that because of the way it's been tested with G3 regs, there's no G3 blow-off valve needed on the main cylinder. You've only got the cold water one on the pressure reducing valve. And so it makes installation hugely much easier, much less pipe work, and that side is a big benefit.
Both with the 4-pipe, where we don't have the valves in and the temperature sensor on the cylinder, because the boiler has those controls in.
How many fail-safes to stop it over?
So the boiler has the equivalent measure in because it's in the boiler. And it's the same on the 4-pipe as it is with the 222.
So it brings the installation, it brings all the components in the boiler under warranty. So if you fit a separate tank, all your warranty components are now in the boiler. It simplifies the installation. You're only taking pipe from the cylinder to the boiler, or if you're on the 222, you're not running extra discharge valves to external. So it's a win-win-win.
Because you've got your 200, you've got your Divicons, you've got no other third-party controller. You can test them if you want, but when do they ever go wrong? They don't. And to be honest, even if they did, they are so very simple. You take the cover off the Divicon control box and you get your multimeter out, and it's there, it's telling you. You know, but I've never even needed to do that.
Spares-wise, I don't do anything on 200.
No.
I've not. I can't say I've changed a pump, a diverter.
And even the electrodes, I mean, you can go to somewhere they need electrodes once a year, whereas the 200, you don't. It's, you clean
5
them
or
up.
6 years between.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4 years.
And gasket.
5 years, isn't it, on a gasket?
Yeah, and you'd take it to its 5th year.
So how easy is it to work on from a servicing maintenance point of view?
Well, one of the nice things about Viessmann is they're all modular. You don't have to carry that larger range of parts to start off with. So I know we're talking about the 200 now, but the 200 just fits nicely in. So that's one of the benefits. The remote monitoring is another benefit. The ease of servicing, and you know, it's absolutely true. They are designed with the engineer in mind, so it's easier for our guys. You can get to the bits that you need to get to really easily, much more effectively. We've done very, very well. I mean, we chose Viessmann primarily for a lot of those reasons.
To me, one of the best features, you go to combustion analyse, you've got Lambda combustion control. You're not forever tweaking the gas valve, setting high limits, low limits up like so many other boilers. You're up there, high flow, tweak it, low, and you're back again because one's affected the other. You've just got to check it to make sure it's within limits. It's so much easier, much more professional. I mean, it's a brilliant boiler to service.
The 200 is great, you just program it in and it's there.
And it's lovely when the customer calls you up because the boiler's told them to.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We have quite a few fluing options on the boiler as well. Who uses what?
Times I've been into installs, customers are looking for a new boiler. They've had other companies in to quote, and they're saying there's not an easy kind of idea for that direct swap out, especially when it comes to chimneys. And the Viessmann with the chimney kit, brilliant. Absolutely, it's got us out of no end of situations where we need, FLUE going up through a chimney.
I mean, one of the ones I've loved before is one where you have the twin flue goes to outside, then you have the air intake at low level, and then you have the way. I've used that on numerous occasions. It worked absolutely brilliantly.
Okay.
What about the fact that Viessmann boilers can be used with proprietary flues? So the flue could be in place at the moment and we're certified for use on other people's flues. Does anybody actually take advantage of that, or are you constrained by the fact that the boiler doesn't just drop into the space of another one?
Yeah, normally the case. And I think that probably needs to be advertised more regards to FLUE and the CE marking, because there's so many engineers out there that don't realise about this CE mark, and that's probably something that needs to be educated to a lot of engineers.
I've always thought the boiler's quiet. Does that come out in feedback from end users?
Very much
Most
so.
of the time.
Yeah, very
You can't
quiet.
hear it. You can't hear it. It's brilliant. It's
And it's
fantastic.
brilliant because you can turn around to them and say, if it's making a noise, call me because something's gone wrong, because you shouldn't be hearing it.
Some of the feedback I've had is I think they only mention it when they go to somebody else's house. When it's quiet and it doesn't even enter into their consciousness, but when they go to somebody else's house, they think, what's that? Oh, it's the boiler. And then you get a comment at the next service saying, I didn't realise how quiet it was until you realise that you've got a comparison.
So Lewis, I think you said you range rate the boilers. So you're doing heat loss calcs then?
We do. We do heat loss calcs modern way, but always double check sometimes the old-fashioned way, certainly in older properties. But yeah, all of the boilers are range rated, so all our engineers range rate domestic, commercial, and the 200 range rated is so easy. Again, it's all through on touchscreen.
Okay.
And that's where we drive the efficiencies, though. We then match that correct output to the system. Perfect solution, really.
Okay. So it's range rating and modulation.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know some installers just, they put the boiler in, they say, well, the modulation will take care of it. Everybody range rate?
Yeah, much prefer to, yes. Yeah.
Especially if you're looking at a 35 kilowatt boiler where you need the output for the hot water, but you don't need all of that for the heating.
Yes.
Matching it up to the property to suit it, it's definitely the way forward, and so easy to do on a 200.
Yeah, the requirements on landlords are much greater than they ever were. Yeah. And for me, the 200 has a number of box-ticking elements to it. So you have the ability to set the service reminder. You can turn the boiler off at that date unless it's serviced, because getting access to properties is notoriously difficult. You can have the integrated CO alarm, which if it senses CO will switch the boiler off. You can remotely monitor it. So you've got predictive fault diagnosis, and you've got increase in first time fix because you know what you're going out to replace.
I think it's still as well, you probably wouldn't pitch 200 for social housing, but I think if you had a block of flats that all needed renewing, and you've got 20 odd boilers in there, to look at the 200 from a social housing point of view, I think is an excellent product because of the remote monitoring and the CO sensing and the general reliability that product would give.
And it's also the fact that you can lock the controls out, that you can't, the biggest problem we've had before is people interfering. You lock the controls out, you know it's going to work as per schedule.
Yes, because I think the controls give you that additional capability of setup, which in experienced hands like yours means that you can get the most out of it. But actually, equally, if somebody goes in that doesn't know what they're doing, then they can kind of unwind a lot of the benefits that you've put in.
But if you have the right landlord who wants to invest in the right product for longevity, then the 200 with having a lower burn temperature with using the weather compensation, the product will last longer. Yeah. So rather than putting a cheap boiler in, which is probably only lasts 5 to 8 years, with hard use in a rental.
You all on occasion fit the boilers on LPG. So what is it about the setup that's beneficial to you?
The simplicity of the conversion. There's no injectors to change. It's just one code on the setup of the boiler when you turn on. Changing one code on the initial setup gets you to LPG. Okay. Done.
And that's because of the Lambda Pro.
Press number 9.
Number 9, we're done.
Right. Yeah. And lock it out.
Yeah.
Don't touch.
And it's great to have a 200 on a wall, which you can just say, oh, you're not oil anymore, fine, you change your tank, purge it. Number 9, you're good to go.
That's an interesting point, Nick, because there are additional benefits to the Lambda Pro, whether you're on LPG or the mains gas grid, in that we're looking at an increase in the mix with biogas, potentially. And the Lambda Pro control will take care of all of the fluctuations in gas quality automatically. So even if we end up with shale gas mix in the gas grid, then the Lambda Pro control will ensure that the boiler runs at yeah, absolutely. So it will maintain that efficiency level.
So it's really a future-proofing model that you're putting it in to manage for the next 15 years.
Yeah, it's an indirect benefit for anybody that's taking one now is whatever happens to the gas mix, whether they're on mains gas or LPG, it's future-proofed.
But that needs to be explained to customers. So when you're talking to the customer, you should be explaining to them that no one expects to fit a boiler for 5 years. They always want 10, 15, hopefully 20 years. So you simply ask the question to the customer, out of all the boiler brands that there are, you would want to fit one that has the ability to change the fuel type or the fuel mix. And clearly the Viessmann 200 is able to do that very simply with a tiny cost of change.
And we're talking 200 predominantly, but there are obviously other products in the range of the 200 family. So who fits some of those other products?
We fit the 222, marvellous product, hot water storage boiler, one box, pipe up, and it performs brilliantly. You won't get a better combination boiler, effectively storage combination.
Yeah.
Marvellous product.
Yeah, so it's a great replacement for a lot of other storage boilers out there now that are coming to the end of their life, and they was installed in new builds. So you've got this large airing cupboard, and I know our domestic engineers do prefer the 222 to replace that particular model.
Yeah, 222. Yeah, great. Everyone I've done, great feedback from the customer from hot water output. Phenomenal.
And is there a customer type, or are there a few customer types where the Vitodens 200 meets their needs, or it's easier to sell to?
I don't think that's sometimes the case. I think obviously a lot of installers automatically go, there's a certain type of class of person, which, yes, probably, but I think if the installer is that educated on the 200 and understands how well it is, I think if sometimes people aren't just given that option, are they? I think if you give people the option, you don't have to be that part of class society to choose the 200. I think you'll get, like we just said, so, you know, it is still pitched to even social housing. You know, you've got so many different benefits of the 200. It isn't destined to one person. I think the good thing is with Viessmann though, the work with the company, if you're a one-man band or a small business or a large business, Viessmann work with you. So you know you can program that 200 up, you can put your details in. The client will be working with you, whereas some manufacturers think that once they've sold the boiler, then that client is theirs for the taking, and they don't really support the installer. Whereas you can tell with Viessmann over the years that that's not the case.